There has to be a system where you have to make these fights.
UFC 151 scheduled for next Saturday in Vegas has been canceled.
No fighter has ever turned down a fight.
The reason that Jon Jones is here today and the reason that Jon Jones is a millionaire and making the money that he makes is because of all the guys who were here before Jon Jones. And sort of, you know, in this sport, the way that it works in this sport is if you're the best in the world and you're the champion, you take on all comers.
We don't know how much paper he has stacked officially. He shrugged his shoulders when the millionaire comment came up, but he is here with us right now. Jon Bones Jones, welcome to First Take.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure being on the show.
It's good to see you. It's an honor and a privilege. Skip Bayless, let me tell you something about this man. I don't know you because you might know him, you might not. There's two dudes. When you think about the UFC, you think about two dudes. You think about Anderson Silva, and you think about this man right here. He's a
in that order? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying in that order.
Okay, I think you did say it in that
order.
Man. I think he's picking
a fight. Don't do that to me. Don't agree with him in front of me. He's a bad man. But I got to get right to it because I'm a fan of Dana White as well. I've known Dana White for years in terms of the UFC. We've communicated on many occasions. And the number one reason I'm a fan of his is because he gives people the fights they want to see when they want to see it, which is my problem with boxing.
Right.
But I didn't feel it was fair what he did when he insisted after against Dan Henderson, the fight was canceled.
Yeah.
That you was he gave you 8 days notice to fight Chael Sonnen. Your thoughts about that and what you just heard Dana White have to say about you?
Well, I'll start with my thoughts about Dana White's comment. You know, basically, Dana White's is a really passionate guy. You know, he takes that same passion that I just heard. He takes that same passion to Fortune 500 companies that have no interest in investing in the UFC. You know, he brings that to the table and he lets people know why they need to get involved with mixed martial arts. So, you know, when you're in his bad side, you know, he's going to talk passionately. So, you know, I kind of forgive the guy even though he hasn't apologized. It's just who he is. Mm-hmm. And as far as taking a fight against, Chael Sonnen on 8 days' notice, right. You know, this is like he said, this is a multi-million-dollar business, you know, and I don't think any educated CEO of any business will make such a irrational decision on such a short notice. I mean, 8 days, that gives you no time to think of a strategy, a game plan, plan of attack. So it's like I feel as if I did what was right for me and my company, and I guess Dana did what was right for his company, the UFC, by kind of pushing.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna stop there. I saw Sonnen get beat down by Anderson Silva. I respect him, but you're talking smack to Anderson Silva of all people, just not why he's a bad man too, Skip. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is that I didn't look at Sonnen and say that's somebody you needed to be worried about.
Right.
It was just that it was 8 days notice. I want to get you on the record here. You weren't too worried about Sonnen, were you?
No, I really wasn't too worried about Chael Sonnen. You know, Chael Sonnen is a guy who I think his MMA record right now is 6-5 or something like that, which is just over 500. You know, but at the same time, this is a sport where if you could possibly lose a game, you know, it's not like, you got it outscored in the game of basketball, you know. This is a sport where if you're not prepared, you know, anything can happen. You know, we wear 4-ounce gloves and, anything can happen. So I like to give myself the best odds as the CEO of my brand to be successful. And that's, you know, having a proper training camp.
You mind if I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Of your man?
Go ahead. He's a bad man. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay, I'm intrigued by this. You have been outspoken about your Christian beliefs.
Absolutely.
And you have been criticized for said beliefs by some of your opponents and the other fighters. How do you reconcile those beliefs with pounding another man's face?
Well,
that's more than that, but go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying.
There's
I'm
other parts
nicely.
of the body that get pounded too, but go ahead.
I agree.
Well, in some ways, I believe that being a martial artist has actually brought me closer to my religion, closer to Christ, you know, closer to wanting to be a decent individual. Martial arts is a sport that creates and promotes discipline, honor, integrity. And I think those are a lot of things that goes hand in hand with Christianity, you know, the discipline to make decent decisions, you know, to try to do things better than you've done in the past. In every way, shape, and form, having good health, you know, taking care of your temple, even though we bash other people.
You bash them.
I can sit here and tell you that I'm extremely healthy.
Do you want to hurt your opponent?
You know, it has absolutely nothing to do with having any sort of animosity or anger or wanting to hurt anybody else. You know, martial arts is really an art form. It's about mastering your own physical capabilities, you know, learning what you're capable as a man. And the human mind and body is an amazing thing once you get into trying to be the best you can be.
Does it hurt, real quick, does it hurt you if you do ultimately hurt him in winning the fight?
Yeah, well, absolutely. You know, I had one situation a few years ago where I broke an opponent's orbital bone, and, you know, I lost a little sleep over it. I genuinely felt bad about it. You know, this is how we feed our families and provide for ourselves. But at the same time, in any professional sports, injuries are a risk. So, you know, I can't really afford to dwell on that too much. We move forward and hope that, you know, serious injuries don't happen in the future.
Are you trying to say that as you go into the octagon, as you go into the cages, that there's nobody, absolutely nobody, that you've ever looked at and like, oh, I'm going to do something to you, and I'm looking forward to it? There's nobody you felt that way about?
You know, there's
nobody. Rampage Jackson.
You know,
I mean, he was talking some smack before you beat him.
I would have to say, you know, Rampage Jackson and Rashad Evans, they definitely got under my skin a little bit with the personal attacks leading up to the event. But once we got in there, like I said, it's more of an art form for me. You know, talking trash obviously increases my motivation to perform at a high level and do really well. But once we're in there, nothing's really that malicious. It's about being successful and coming out on top.
We got to ask him about his bloodlines.
Yes, sir.
Because this is about 1,000,000,000 to 1 shot that one family would produce a Baltimore Raven and a young stud New England Patriot. I'm talking about your brother Arthur and then Chandler with the Patriots.
Yeah.
And they play each other, obviously, on Sunday night.
Yeah.
How do you explain that all 3 of you came from the same household?
You know, really, at the end of the day, it's a total blessing. And I have to, you know, give credit to God first and foremost. And then my parents, you know, I had great parents who kept us in the house growing up, you know, no cell phones, no sleepovers, no cable TV.
Really?
You know, they
No
really,
cable TV?
No cable. We never
How
had
could you
cable.
watch First Take?
We weren't watching First Take. We were out,
Darn it.
you know, we were out, you know, doing things for the church and playing with each other, you know, wrestling and things like that. So, you know, it's really a big contribute to my parents, kind of trying to raise us as old school as possible. And to do that in modern day, it speaks a lot. And
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Yeah, and it really worked out, panned off for
so
sure.
who wins Sunday night?
It's hard to say.
No,
you
it
know.
is not.
You got to
is
pick
hard
one.
to
Come
say.
on,
You got
now.
to.
Don't act like you can't pick.
Yeah.
Who do you think's going to win?
I really don't know. You know, Tom Brady is an awesome quarterback. I mean, he's a coach in himself and a player. Then they have Ray Lewis on that defense to neutralize him. And, you know, that guy, he gives results every year. So it's really hard to say.
You see
Right now, I'm more interested to see who's going to have the better individual game.
Well, I was getting ready to go there. That's where I was getting ready to
Yeah.
go
Who's
because
gonna play
I
harder?
mean, because I'm thinking about you, and you come across as relatively mild-mannered, but you're a beast when it's time to fight.
When it's time.
Okay. Well, who's more like you, or who are you more like?
You know,
Which one of the brothers?
I think Arthur has more of that fighter spirit in him. He really is he's an alpha male. As you see what he did to one of those players just a few days ago. He just threw someone on the floor, supposedly. Jackson, I think is the last name. Yeah. You don't look too happy about that.
That's all right.
Arthur, he has that lion spirit, man. He's a true fighter at heart. Chandler is charismatic and he's more of a lover. But when they put the pads on, man, you can't tell the difference. They're both beasts.
Are they going to be at your next fight?
They won't be at the next fight, September 22nd. They're playing on the 23rd, so they'll be with me in spirit. And what the UFC is doing, they're actually allowing the NFL players to watch the game free at their hotel. So they're going to give that hotel free.
Tell us who
for the
you're
night.
fighting next. Tell us who you fight next.
I'm fighting Vitor Belfort, a guy from Brazil. He's a beast, former world champion. September 22nd, pay-per-view, UFC 152.
You going to win?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay.
All right, mark it
Don't
down
lose.
with the
Don't
Sharpie.
come up in here and lose.
He's going to win.
You heard it first,
Don't
right
make
here.
it look like the show's giving you bad luck, because you certainly haven't been losing.
Not so far.
Jon
Beating everybody
Bones Jones. Bones knows. Thanks so
Yes.
much for joining
He's
us
a
here on
bad
First
man.
Take.